I hit record highs at my job. Not a tech launch, not some overhyped startup, but a casino's new security system that I designed from scratch. Cameras were working flawlessly. Customer tracking was precise. Fraud detection had caught 3 cheaters before lunch. The pit bosses were high-fiving. The floor managers were calling it a game changer. Upper management called a last-minute celebration. I stood on the sidelines, sipping flat soda, watching them cheer for a system that was mine. Then Calvin, my boss, walked over. Cheap cologne, smug tone, like he'd won a prize. He said, "The bonus won't be processed. Executive policy." He didn't explain more, just turned and walked off. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just nodded, watching him leave, thinking, they really think I don't matter. I went back to my booth. My inbox was flooded, just like I expected. People asking for reports, data, analysis from the system. I handled it all, no delay, no hesitation. The platform I built was running like clockwork, and I was too deep in the weeds to think about anything else. But then it clicked. They were relying on a platform tied to one condition in a contract I'd negotiated myself. I knew the system worked, but this wasn't just about the tech. This was bigger. I'd buried a clause deep in the vendor contract when I'd signed it, something that had seemed paranoid at the time, but now felt like a goddamn life raft. The licensing agreement was only valid if I was in compensated employment. I'd put that clause in after they almost outsourced my job years ago. They didn't care about me back then, and I had to make sure they never forgot it. The clause was simple. If I went unpaid for over 72 hours, access rights got pulled. I opened the PDF again, scanned the lines, and stared at it. The 72-hour clock had started ticking the moment Calvin dropped his line about the bonus. I wasn't getting paid for that work, not a dime. I clicked over to my email, fingers moving automatically. FYI potential issue, I typed to legal and hit send. Short, to the point. I knew Rebecca would get it. She always did. Monday came with balloons, confetti, and company-wide emails taking credit for my work. They were all celebrating a system they didn't build. Calvin had even written a performance review, one that used words I had typed verbatim weeks earlier. Only they were credited to him. I wasn't even mentioned. Not once. It didn't bother me the way it used to. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I just opened a new folder on my desktop. I labeled it Insurance. I didn't waste any time. Started dragging in drafts, video footage, logs, and receipts. Everything I'd built over the last year. Every line of code, every schematic, every detail that proved it was mine. Quietly, I documented the fact that the license clause had been triggered as of that morning. I didn't need to confront anyone. The contract was enough. The evidence was enough. If they wanted to pretend they didn't know, fine, I'd let them. But if they pushed too far, if they wanted to play it like I didn't matter, then I'd make sure they'd see exactly how much I controlled. At lunch, I watched management talk about expansion, new regions, and monetizing the surveillance data. They were building a roadmap off my platform, a roadmap that didn't mention me once. They hadn't paid me a cent, but they acted like I was invisible. I kept my eyes on them, letting the conversation roll over me. But then I noticed something, an early sign. One of the floor managers asked someone in the hallway about the vendor clause. They were trying to figure out if they were in the clear. I didn't engage. I stayed silent, kept pretending everything was normal. They could dig themselves into their own hole. I didn't need to rush it. That afternoon, I walked out with a hard drive in my bag, the one that held the original code base, the one with everything they'd need to keep the system running, and a copy of the contract. It was all legal, all airtight. The 72-hour window was ticking down. I didn't have to make a move yet. Just wait. Let the rope tighten on its own. The next morning, I was quietly removed from internal chats and meetings. No explanation. Just gone. The stand-up invite vanished. My calendar wiped clean. They thought icing me out would make me walk. Thought they'd break me down by pretending I didn't exist anymore. Instead, I opened a new spreadsheet. I started listing every department that touched my system, every process tied to it. I wasn't just playing with a few databases anymore. This was a web that ran the whole damn casino. By lunch, I had 43 systems listed. By midnight, it was 92. Every single one depended on my code. Every single one was tied to that vendor license. The clause didn't just stop dashboards or tracking. It made everything illegal. Still no word from Calvin. They thought silence would make me vanish. But I wasn't going anywhere. I was just watching them bury themselves. Legal called a closed-door meeting. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. I knew exactly what was happening. Rebecca, the company attorney, had the clause open on her laptop. She wasn't the type to waste words. She asked calmly, "Is she being paid?" HR flinched. Finance mumbled something about back pay. Calvin, of course, tried to spin it. He started with some weak excuse about evaluating metrics and how the policy was under review. Rebecca didn't blink. She looked at each of them like they were children playing dress-up. "If she's unpaid," she said, "we're in breach." There was a pause. Then she stood up, binder in hand, and said, "I'm escalating this to the CEO." Before she left, she turned back, a small smirk on her lips. "You should read the contract." She wrote most of it. She left them to stew in their mess. They had no idea what was coming. At 3:12 a.m., the first report failed to send. I wasn't surprised. The clock was ticking, and I'd been waiting for this. By 4, the entire analytics system had gone dark. No dashboards, no logs, no data. Just a big, empty void where everything used to live. The vendor had blocked access. The message was simple. License unrecognized. Contact account holder. That was me. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of the silence. I knew it was coming, but it didn't make the moment any less satisfying. By 7:30, panic had swallowed the exec team. I could hear the scramble from the break room as the buzz of frantic calls and messages echoed down the hallway. CEO and Rebecca were holding an emergency meeting, trying to figure out what went wrong, scrambling to fix something they couldn't even understand. Rebecca wasn't rushing. She walked in calm, confident, and placed the contract down in front of everyone like a death sentence. They didn't even look at it right away. They just tried to patch together excuses, but it was already too late. The 72-hour window had passed. Retroactive pay didn't matter anymore. The whole damn thing was illegal now. My name wasn't in that room, not physically. But I controlled the lights. Without me, they couldn't do anything. They scrambled to fix it. I heard the buzz of conference calls and rushed emails. They even tried backdating my bonus, like that would undo everything. Too late. At 12:47 p.m., Rebecca sent a final email. Breach remains, disclosure proceeding. There was no way out for them now. A little while later, someone from HR asked me to write documentation for a system I was locked out of. They were getting desperate, trying to shift the blame somewhere. I looked at him, dead in the eye, and said, "Look up the word breach." He blinked, confused, but didn't argue. At 2 p.m., I walked past the conference room and saw Calvin standing there, pointing at a spreadsheet full of error messages, like he was directing traffic. The panic was palpable. The room was full of people trying to pretend everything was fine, but they all knew it was over. I deleted my sandbox credentials without a second thought, not for revenge, just for closure. They could scream all they wanted, but it wouldn't change a thing. The damage had been done. Their panic was silent but loud. It was the kind of fear you can't ignore, even when no one says a word. A ship flooding slowly while the crew played dumb, pretending the water wasn't rising around them. At 6:42 p.m., the phone rang. No assistant, just the CEO. "What will it take?" he asked, his voice tense. I opened the PDF my lawyer and I had prepared weeks earlier. I didn't hesitate. I'd been waiting for this call. I emailed him the terms as he waited on the line. Pay me back, pay plus 40% penalty. Buy out the license clause for mid-six figures. A public statement admitting their mistake. There was a long pause. I could almost hear him swallow before he spoke again. His breath caught. "We should have just paid the damn bonus." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I was already done talking. 24 hours, I said, calm, measured. Then I escalate. He didn't argue. I hung up and went back to feeding the cat. I watched the dashboard stay dark all night, didn't lift a finger. The next day, the CEO called again. The wire was sent, the statement drafted. He asked if I'd come back. I didn't even bother answering. Instead, I logged into my freelance project. They were already paying me in crypto and respect. I checked my bank account. The wire had landed. I took a moment, opened the news. The vendor had confirmed the license was reinstated. I didn't ask for revenge. I asked for fairness. But in the end, I got both. Calvin never spoke to me again. Fine by me. I still walk by that casino sometimes. The lights shining bright, the systems humming. All thanks to me. And no one ever forgets to pay me now.